Before the stars were named and the earth first tasted the rain, there was a village nestled in the curve of the river where the sun burnt gold and the dust sang of ancient secrets. It was a village where the wind did not just blow, it carried voices. Voices of ancestors, voices of spirits who had long crossed over but remained close, waiting for those with hearts pure enough to listen. There, among the huts made of woven grasses, lived a young woman named Amara. Her beauty was whispered about in every corner of the village, and the stories about her were like the songs of the birds at dawn, sweet and full of promise. Her skin was the color of the earth after a rainstorm, dark and rich, her eyes like pools of deepest night. And when she smiled, it was said that the whole village felt the warmth of the sun. But Amara was no ordinary woman. No, she was the daughter of a great hunter, a man who once hunted lions and tigers with nothing but a spear and his bare hands. And though she was beautiful and kind, there was a restlessness in her eyes, one that the elders had long feared, though none dared speak of it aloud. You see, Amara had a secret older than the river itself. It was on the day of her wedding that the truth would come to light. The village gathered as villages do when there is a celebration of love. They came from far and wide, men, women, and children, elders with wisdom in their silver hair, and younger ones still learning the ways of the world. The air was thick with excitement and the scent of roasting meats and freshly baked bread. The elders whispered among themselves, their eyes casting long, knowing glances toward the bride. For there was something strange in the air that evening, something no one could place, but everyone could feel. Amara stood at the center of the celebration, draped in her wedding attire, bright as the setting sun, her gown of woven fiber shimmering with intricate patterns, symbols of strength and unity. Her groom, Kofi, stood beside her, his hands trembling with joy and nervousness. He had been her friend since childhood, and he had loved her since the first day they met, a love as deep as the river that flowed past their village. Yet, as the ceremony began and the elders began to chant the words that would bind them, there was a shift in the air. The temperature dropped, and the sound of the drums seemed to grow distant, as if something unseen was drawing closer. Amara's mother, a woman who had seen much in her time, turned her gaze toward the sky, watching as the stars dimmed. Her heart quickened, but she said nothing, for the elders had warned her long ago when Amara was but a child that one day the snake would come home. She had thought it was just a metaphor, perhaps a warning, perhaps a dream. But now, as Amara stood before the fire with the ceremony unfolding, her heart could no longer deny it. The serpent was close. The villagers didn't know it yet, but that night would be their last under the moon they had always known. That night, Amara would reveal what they had never seen before, and no one would leave the celebration the same. As the drums beat louder, something shifted in the air, a strange tension. And then, as Amara lifted her eyes, a flicker of something ancient passed through her gaze, a flicker so brief that no one could quite place it. But for the first time, the villagers felt a strange unease. They did not yet know what was to come, but the wind whispered it loud enough for those who were listening. She is not what you think, it said. And in that moment, beneath the shimmering stars and the quiet firelight, the earth shifted beneath their feet. When the fire crackled and the night stretched long over the land, the moon hung low like a silver coin lost in the deep pockets of the heavens. The villagers danced around the fire, their feet stirring up dust that swirled like spirits awakened. Music and laughter filled the air, but even amidst the joy, there was a strange, unsettling silence that clung to the edges of the gathering. No one spoke of it aloud, but the air was heavy, like the calm before a storm. Amara's hand trembled slightly in Kofi's, though he was too caught in the magic of the evening to notice. He whispered sweet words of love to her, promising a future together, filled with children and prosperity. His voice was soft, his heart full, but Amara's heart was a wild thing, thrumming like a drumbeat that no one else could hear. It was then that the elders began their chant, their voices rising and falling in a rhythm that seemed to echo through the earth itself. The words were ancient, older than the village, older than the river. It was a song that called upon the spirits to bless the union, to ensure fertility, and to bind the hearts of the couple together for eternity. But as they sang, a strange thing happened. Amara's body began to sway, not in the dance of joy, but in a slow, serpentine motion, graceful, deliberate. It was as if the song was not reaching her soul, but something deep within her, something older and darker was awakening. The villagers paused, their feet faltering in mid-step. A whisper passed from one to the other. They could not understand what they were seeing, but a deep instinct told them it was wrong. Kofi's eyes locked with hers, searching for the bride he had always known. But there was something unfamiliar in her gaze. Her lips parted, but the words that came from her mouth were not the vows of love he expected. They were words that seemed to come from the shadows themselves. The serpent waits for no one, she whispered, her voice low, like the hiss of a distant wind. Kofi froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The firelight danced in her eyes, but there was something more, something alive, something that did not belong. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of something sweet and sickly, like poison blooming in the night. Then, without warning, the earth beneath Amara's feet cracked open. The ground trembled as if the very bones of the earth were stirring from a long slumber. The villagers gasped, stumbling back, their eyes wide with disbelief. Kofi reached out to her, but she stepped back, her body moving with a speed and grace that no human could match. For the first time, the villagers saw it. Her shadow stretched long and twisted in the firelight. It was no longer the shadow of a woman, but the shadow of something else, something that slithered and coiled, dark as the night, its shape unfathomable. Amara raised her hands to the heavens, her voice rising above the sound of the drums, now distant, fading. Her eyes glowed with an unearthly light, and for a moment, the villagers understood. She was not what they thought. She was not a bride. She was a creature of the old world, a being that had walked among them in human form, waiting for this night. I was born to be the serpent's bride, she said, her voice now cold, almost indifferent. And the serpent never forgets. The wind howled, the fire flickered and twisted, and the villagers were plunged into a darkness that had nothing to do with the night, a darkness that felt like the closing of an ancient door. And in the silence that followed, Kofi stood frozen, his heart shattered, for the woman he had loved, the woman he had promised his life to, was not a woman at all. She was something else, something powerful and terrifying. But what was she truly waiting for? The serpent's keys had already been given. The earth groaned beneath them. The ground, once steady and familiar, seemed to breathe with its own pulse, as though the very soil was waking up after centuries of slumber. The air, thick with the scent of burning wood, now carried a strange, acrid smell, a hint of something ancient and unholy. The villagers stood frozen, their faces painted with confusion and fear. The fire flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. They had never seen anything like this. They had never felt anything like this. Kofi, his heart pounding like a drum, reached out for Amara, but his hand trembled in the air as if afraid of touching her. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was witnessing. Amara, what are you saying? What's happening? His voice cracked, raw with desperation. Amara's lips curled into a smile, one that was both seductive and chilling. Her eyes, once soft and warm, now burned with an unnatural fire, dark and infinite. She was no longer the woman he had fallen in love with. She was something else, something older, something far more dangerous. You are not meant to understand, Kofi, she whispered, her voice flowing like honey, but laced with poison. The serpent does not seek your love, nor your understanding. The serpent only seeks its mate. Her words struck him like a thunderclap. Mate, he gasped, his breath shallow. You are the serpent. A slow, eerie laughter rose from Amara's throat, echoing in the still night air. I am the serpent's chosen, she said, the words heavy with ancient power. But I was never meant to remain human. The serpent's blood flows through to my veins, Kofi. It has always been so. As the last syllable left her lips, something changed in the air. The ground trembled once more, and the villagers took a step back, fear gripping their hearts. The sky above seemed to shift, the stars dimming as if they were in mourning. But there was no time for wonder, no time to think. For in that moment, Amara's form began to change. Her skin, once soft and smooth, began to shimmer with an ethereal light, like scales, smooth and iridescent, shifting in hues of green and black. Her eyes widened, and her pupils elongated, becoming thin slits, like those of a serpent. Her body twisted and contorted, her form elongating, her limbs shrinking and reshaping. The firelight flickered, casting strange shadows as her transformation continued, her human shape melting away piece by piece. Kofi fell to his knees, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. No, this cannot be true, he whispered, his voice breaking. This is not you. But as the last of Amara's human form disappeared, the full shape of the serpent emerged from the shadows. Its long, coiled body gleamed in the firelight, its scales glittering like diamonds. Its eyes, once human, now burned with an ancient, cruel intelligence. The villagers screamed in terror, some falling to the ground in a desperate prayer, others running, their feet tripping over themselves as they fled. But no one could escape the truth now. Amara had not been the bride of their village. She had been the serpent in disguise, sent to deceive them, to bind them to something older than the village itself. Kofi looked up at the creature before him, his beloved Amara, now a monstrous serpent. His heart was torn, his soul shattered, but in that moment, he understood. The serpent had always been within her. It had waited, biding its time. The serpent flicked its tongue, tasting the air, then spoke with a voice that echoed through Kofi's bones, deep and ancient. The price has been paid, Kofi. The serpent has claimed its bride, and now its hunger must be fed. The night seemed to stretch forever as the villagers scattered into the wilderness. But no one could outrun the truth. No one could outrun what had been awakened. In the distance, the sound of Kofi's voice, broken and hollow, echoed through the darkened night. What have you done, Amara? But there was no answer. Only the hiss of the serpent and the wind carrying its cold ancient promise. The village lay in ruins. What was once a place of joy and life was now a ghost of its former self. The scent of burning wood mingled with the heavy air of terror, lingering like a curse. The fire that had once celebrated love now burned with a cold, malevolent heat. The serpent, in its full monstrous form, slithered slowly across the land, its movements as fluid and inevitable as the river's flow. Kofi's knees dug into the earth, his heart breaking with every breath. His gaze never left the serpent, though it was no longer the woman he had loved. This creature, with its sleek, sinuous body and eyes that gleamed like polished obsidian, was a force of nature, older and stronger than anything he had known. He could still hear the echoes of her voice, the sweetness and the venom intertwined in every word. The price has been paid, she had said. For what price? What had he truly agreed to? The serpent did not speak again. Instead, it moved toward the edge of the village, its massive body causing the ground to tremble with every coil. And as it moved, the air grew colder. The darkness thicker. A strange, oppressive silence filled the space between the few remaining villagers who had not fled. They huddled in the shadows, their faces pale with fear, their eyes wide with disbelief. The elders, their voices now mere whispers of their former wisdom, gathered close to Kofi. Their robes rustled like dry leaves as they spoke in harsh tones. "She is not the only one, Kofi," one elder said, his voice shaky with age and fear. "This is the way of things. The serpent comes when the land has forgotten its balance. It comes when the hearts of men are too heavy with desire, when the earth thirsts for blood." Kofi's hands trembled, the weight of the truth crashing down upon him like a wave. "Then why did you not warn us? Why did you allow this to happen?" His voice cracked, raw with the weight of betrayal. The elder sighed, looking towards the serpent, now coiled like a massive shadow over the village. "There are some things we cannot stop. The serpent comes when it is called. It comes to take what is owed to it, but it does not come without a cost." Kofi clenched his fists, his mind racing. He had been the one who loved her. He had been the one who promised a future to the woman who was not truly a woman at all. "What must I do?" he asked, his voice desperate, a plea for something, anything to undo the nightmare that was unfolding before him. The elder's face was grim, his eyes clouded with sorrow. "There is no undoing it now, Kofi. The serpent has been awakened, and it will not rest until its hunger has been sated. But there is a way." Kofi's heart skipped a beat. "A way?" he asked, his voice thick with hope. The elder nodded slowly. "The serpent may take many things, life, land, souls, but there is one thing it cannot claim, one thing that can break its hunger." Kofi leaned forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "What is it? Tell me." The elder's voice dropped to a whisper, as if the very words themselves were sacred. "The serpent's true mate, the one who gave it life, the one who bound it to the earth, it is not Amara. The serpent's mate is the one who loves it most truly, the one who is willing to sacrifice everything to restore the balance. Only that love can stop it." Kofi's eyes widened. The serpent, the creature that had devoured everything in its path, had been bound to this land by love. The thought felt impossible, but in his heart, he knew it was true. The elder's eyes locked with his, full of a wisdom that seemed both infinite and sorrowful. "To face the serpent, you must face yourself, Kofi. You must choose to give all of yourself, or it will consume you too." Kofi stood slowly, his mind reeling. He turned towards the serpent, now poised at the heart of the village, its head rising high, its eyes staring into the sky like an ancient god waiting to claim what was owed to it. His heart thundered in his chest. "I will do whatever it takes," he whispered, but he had no idea what that price would be or what the serpent would demand from him next. The wind howled through the ruined village, its mournful cries stirring the ashes of what had once been. The air was thick with the scent of burning wood, and the only sound that remained was the low, slithering hiss of the serpent. Its coils wrapped around the heart of the village, the once vibrant homes now reduced to blackened husks. Kofi stood at the edge of the clearing, his chest heavy, his eyes locked on the creature that had once been his beloved. The firelight flickered against the darkened sky, casting shadows that seemed to reach out and swallow the earth. The serpent was still, its great form stretching far into the night, the power of its ancient hunger hanging in the air like a shroud. The elder's words echoed in Kofi's mind. The serpent's mate is the one who loves it most truly. Only that love can stop it. He did not know what sacrifice this would require. He did not know what he was about to face. But one thing he did know, he would do anything to save the village, to save her. With a deep breath, Kofi stepped forward, his feet firm upon the ground. He moved slowly, cautiously, as if each step could summon the serpent's wrath. As he drew closer, the creature's head lifted, its dark eyes narrowing upon him. It sensed his approach, and his tongue flickered in the air, tasting the tension that hung between them. You come, the serpent's voice rumbled, echoing in the very bones of the earth. To stop me? To save them? Kofi's heart pounded, but he stood tall. I come to end your hunger, he said, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped him, and to free the woman I loved. You have taken her from me, but I will not allow you to take any more. The serpent's laugh was cold, like the rustle of dead leaves in a forgotten forest. You think you can free her? The serpent chooses its own path. It chooses its mate, and you cannot change what has already been written in the stars. Kofi took another step forward. I can choose. I choose to face you. I choose to end this. A low growl rumbled from deep within the serpent's chest. The ground beneath Kofi trembled, and the air grew thick with the weight of power. The serpent's coils shifted, tightening as if preparing to strike. But Kofi was not afraid. He closed his eyes for a brief moment and thought of Amara, of the woman who had laughed with him, loved with him, walked beside him. He thought of the promise he had made to her. He had not known then that this promise would demand everything. I love you, Amara, he whispered into the night, his voice breaking the stillness like a tear in the fabric of the universe. The serpent's head recoiled as if struck by an unseen force. Your love is a poison, it hissed, but it is also a gift. And in that moment, Kofi knew what he had to do. He had to give all of himself. He had to give his heart, his soul, everything he had ever been. Only then would the serpent's hunger be quelled. With a final, decisive step, Kofi moved forward, extending his arms toward the serpent. Take me, he said, his voice full of resolve. Take me instead. Spare them all. Spare her. The serpent paused, its eyes glowing with an ancient wisdom. Then, with a sudden and terrible speed, it struck, its fangs sinking deep into Kofi's flesh. But as the venom coursed through his veins, something miraculous happened. The serpent's coils loosened, and the hunger that had driven it for centuries began to ebb. Amara's form shimmered before him, her human shape returning slowly, her eyes wide with confusion and sorrow. Kofi, no, she cried, her voice full of pain, but it was too late. The serpent's grip had loosened, and as the light faded from Kofi's eyes, the hunger was no more. The land was free. The villagers gathered in silence the next morning, the sky now clear and calm. The fire was extinguished, but the air was alive with the promise of renewal. Amara stood in the center, her tears a quiet river down her cheeks. And though Kofi was gone, the balance had been restored. As the sun rose high over the village, an elder stepped forward, his voice strong and clear. In the end, love is the greatest power. It can build, it can destroy, and it can restore. A sacrifice made in love is never truly lost, the elder continued, looking toward the horizon. It is the seed from which new life grows. Thank you for joining us in this journey through the ancient, mysterious world of African folklore. If this story has touched you, if it has awakened something deep inside your spirit, make sure to like and subscribe for more unforgettable tales. Don't forget to share with those who need to hear the wisdom of the ancestors. Remember, in the shadows of the past, we find the light of the future. Stay tuned for more captivating stories. Until next time, may your heart stay fierce, your spirit remain free, and your path be guided by the stars. Subscribe for more.